Who am I? My name is Reginald King, and I'm a growth expert. And you may ask, what is a growth expert? Simply put, I help people grow. If a person feels stuck, it can be an educator, it can be a company. I help people with a pathway to growth. How do I do it? I do trainings like what I'm doing here. I can do it through coaching, speaking, assessing behavior. I work with the John Maxwell team. John Maxwell is known as the leading leadership expert around the world. I've had 10 years experience as an educator, both at secondary and at the university level. I'm from the US, Virginia, but I actually live in Dubai currently. And so today I have the wonderful privilege of talking to you about the math classroom activities for games for multiple intelligence. Now, many of you guys, all of you are from Latin America, and I miss being in the US and being able to travel there. I've been to the Dominican Republic, Cabarete. I've been to Colombia, Barranquilla, Panama City. And so different places around the world, beautiful people, beautiful culture, and I'm just having the wonderful privilege of being able to speak to you guys today. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off my camera just for the purposes of making sure that everybody has no problem as far as being with the internet, but I wanted you to see my face just for a personal connection, because I understand with Zoom, sometimes you're just hearing the voice. It's easy to kind of lose the connection with the speaker. So what is our overview? What are we going to do today? We're going to do an overview of multiple intelligence theory. We're going to engage in some multiple intelligence games. And these games are not going to be for grades 2s or grade 5s. It's going to be adult games. And so you can just kind of get into the kind of the competitive game. It's going to be somewhat fun in that sense. And then we're going to also explore alpha math multiple intelligence activities. I want to kind of walk you through the different resources that are available with Alpha Math Publishing for both the elementary school level and the middle school level, and talk how we can integrate multiple intelligence inside of there. And then we'll spend some time in question and answer. Once again, for those who are coming in who have not already have done the multiple intelligence quiz, go ahead and I'll put it in the chat again for everyone. If you haven't already done the multiple intelligence quiz, go ahead and do it. You'll still hear my voice in the background. You won't be seeing the screen, but it'll give you about 5 minutes to do it so that you'll have a sense of the different intelligence that you have. After completing it, write the dominant intelligence that you have on the screen in the chat. Now, let's talk about differentiation. So differentiation is the big buzz. As educators, you know that you are supposed to do differentiation. And you are asked to differentiate by subject understanding. You are asked to differentiate all these different things. And sometimes it can feel like a circus as an educator, all these different things that are required of you to do. You got to teach for the test. You got to be creative. You got to be fun. You got to differentiate. And I can know that it can be very stressful at times to be an educator in that sense. But there's a few ways that you can differentiate. One of them is by subject understanding, and that's what most people understand. You got reteach, where these are students who struggle with learning the material on level with students. So they're a little bit behind everyone else. Then you have on-level students who are kind of pacing along with you. And then you have enriched students. These students are by far the best students, and you can challenge them more. And oftentimes you're doing that differentiation in class. Also, you can differentiate by personality type, particularly DISC. What it does is it helps you with developing behavioral, communication, and connection with your students. When you differentiate by personality, you're able to connect with the student in the best way that they want to be connected with, as far as communication styles, motivation styles, and it can really help with the behavior in the classroom. Oftentimes, teachers have no problem teaching. The biggest struggle that most teachers have when it comes to things is behavior in the class. And differentiated by personality type DISC helps with that. Today, we're going to be talking about differentiating by multiple intelligence. All right, so let's start with what is multiple intelligence. There's 8 forms of multiple intelligence, and this was created by Howard Gardner in 1983. He realized that when people talked about intelligence, normally they're talking about 1 or 2 types of intelligence. They normally were talking about logical, which was excelling in math, and they were talking about linguistics when they were excelling in words, basically English and math. And basically it left out other people, and other people simply felt like they were not intelligent or smart. Howard Gardner came up with 8 different types of intelligence. 1 was naturalistic. These are people who are smart with nature. They love animals, plants, and they just understand the natural world. They end up being biologists or conservationists. You have kinesthetic. These people are very good with body movements. They can be actors, athletes, pro video game people. They have good hand-eye coordinations. They make great dancers. So there is those who are intelligent from the kinesthetic or the body point of view. You have logical, which is math, logical thinking. You have linguistics, who excel in words, language, poetry, and writing. You have interpersonal. These people understand themselves. They are very reflective. They understand their feelings. They're very good at understanding where they are. They make great philosophers or clergy members. You have visual and spatial. These are your designers, your engineers, your artists. They are very good with reading maps. You have interpersonal. These people are your leaders, your politicians. They have this ability to connect with other people. And then you have musical. They just understand music. They have rhythm. They can hear beats extremely well. And so you have 8 different types of intelligence. And you say, oh, that's well and good. But I have so many things that I have to do in education. How does this kind of apply? We'll talk about that in a moment. When we try to communicate with kids, instead of using these big words, kinesthetic, visual, spatial, we can say it in very simple ways. You can be body smart, which is kinesthetic. You can be people smart, which is interpersonal. You can be word smart, which is linguistic. Logic smart, which is math. Nature smart, which is naturalistic. Self smart, intrapersonal. Picture smart, visual and spatial. And then music smart, which is musical. Now, here's a big idea. Why differentiate by multiple intelligence? Here's the why. I mean, I know you guys are doing so many things in your curriculum. You're trying to teach for tests. You have so many things to do. Why should you have to do more? All right, here's why. 2 reasons why you should introduce multiple intelligence into your classroom. 1, it's excitement. It provides variety. Whenever you provide something new to the class, for kids, it becomes an excitement. Another one is the concept of equity. So let's talk about equity for a moment. Equity is not the same as equality. Equality says that everybody gets the exact same resources. And so if everybody gets the exact same resources, then everything is fair. Equity says that some people have some inherent disadvantages simply because of maybe culture, where they are, or physical, but there are some inherent disadvantages that they may have in a certain situation. And it's a responsibility to even the playing field, and that's what equity is. So for instance, if you're in a math class and you give everybody a calculator and you give everybody a piece of paper and a pen, and you have them do a test, you will call that equality. They all have the same resources. However, equity would be that maybe you have a student with ADHD who needs a more quiet atmosphere to kind of focus to do what they need to do. Equity says, let me put them in that situation. You may have a student who has issues reading small text on a test paper. So you create the test where the words are bigger so that they can see it. That's part of what we would consider calling equity. So here's some strategies to integrate multiple intelligence in the classroom. And after this, we're going to get into some games. First, you can integrate multiple intelligent activities into every single lesson. Now, I know the moment I said that, there was a collective gasp of everyone. You're already doing so many different things, and to try to integrate multiple intelligence into every lesson, may be still going on it, and others may have already ended. So curiously, what are your scores on the bus driver's math? Go ahead and drop your scores in the chat. Don't be shy. Nobody, well, there probably are some people who competed against each other. That's just the nature of competitive people. But go ahead and drop your score in here. So Danielle has 700. Go in and drop your score. And you find when you do this, it's not actually the math part at times, it's the identifying. You have to identify it, and then you have to develop a system of trying to do the math quickly in your head to determine if it's enough. There's multiple things that's going on in this process here. So anyone else who want to put their score for the bus driver's math here? This is a game that you can actually integrate into your class. This one does have the logical part. Oh, I think it's Paola. Great, 2,700. Understood, Martha. So here's the thing, is that you can actually integrate this. This can be a good warm-up for some students. Christina, 3,500, that's a great score. And so what you can do is, this is a logical part, but it's also interpersonal in the sense that interpersonal is being able to identify very quickly different characteristics, and you're doing the calculations in the head. This is a good logical and interpersonal one. All right, so let's explore another multiple intelligence activity for grade 5. This one is going to be kinesthetic. So there's going to be a body component to it, visual, and logical. All right, so it is going to be body, so kinesthetic, logical, and visual. This one deals with multiplying fractions by a mixed number. And what you're doing here is you're taking students outside. Anna, that's a great score, 4,000. And you are asking the students in a group to either throw the ball or to kick a ball. And so what you're going to do is, that's the physical activity. They're going to throw the ball the first time. Then there is the spatial part, or the visual. You'll have somebody with a tape measure. They're going to measure that component. So they're going to measure the distance that the ball was thrown or kicked. Then you're going to ask the person to throw the ball again. But you're going to say, I want you to throw it only 2/3 of the distance. So they now have to kind of calculate in their mind visually, what's 2/3 of that first throw, and they're going to try to throw it 2/3 of the way. Now you're going to have them just do a calculation. The first throw times 2/3. And they want to compare if that number is the same as their second throw. Is it more than their second throw, or is it less than the second throw? So you get into greater than, less than, and equal. That's the logical part. You're getting into the multiplying of mixed numbers. That's the logical part. You have the physical part of throwing a ball. You have the visual part of trying to figure out distances in between. So once again, this is another multiple intelligence activity that will bring people in who may not just be on the logical side of things. Another multiple intelligence one is a musical one. Musical, interpersonal, and verbal. So we have musical, interpersonal, and linguistic and verbal. This one is creating a rap song in a group for long division. I remember when I was an educator and I had a student who just wasn't really that great at geometry, particularly the whole parallel lines and the different angles that form with the transversal. And one of the activities in there was just to create a rap song. Kid came back, had created a great rap song, and it was the most motivated I had seen that student in my entire class. Going forward, the kid ended up being a professional rapper later on in life. So this actually does make a difference as far as different things, as far as bringing excitement and actually motivation to students. So that's it. You're just basically creating a rap song about long division. So here's an example of that right here.
This one's for the kids who say they can't do math. Yeah, you can. Nothing can stop you, so just listen up.
Multiply and subtract. Bring it on down and bring it on back. Divide, multiply and subtract. Bring it on down and bring it on back.
Yo, I'm gonna teach you something about long division. After watching this, will do it with more precision. I'm coming at you hot. My name's T. Billy. Time to master divides and dividend. First divide these two numbers.
Multiply.
Then multiply 6 times 6. Subtract 36 minus 36.
Bring it on down and bring it on back.
Divide, multiply, and subtract. Bring it on down and bring it on back. Divide, multiply, and subtract. Bring it on down and bring it on back. This one's for all the students with the dedication, sharp pencils. They always pay attention. They work hard, man. They never quit. When there's a problem, these kids can solve it. 7 fits into 49 7 times.
Multiply.
7 times 7 is 49.
Subtract.
49 minus 49 is 0.
Bring it on down and
Well, do it again.
Divide, multiply, and subtract. Bring it on down and bring it on back. Divide, multiply, and subtract. Bring it on down and bring it on back.
divide, multiply and subtract. Bring it on down and bring it on back. Divide, multiply and subtract. Bring it on down and bring it on back.
You want a Rari, but can't divide? What other job can you get besides working fries? You gotta work so hard that when they ask where you live, you point to the hills and say,
Go all the way up. I never gave up.
So that was just one of a teacher has done that, and we're gonna actually skip this one. So we're gonna skip this one. So we're not gonna actually do this game. So we're going to skip that one. But that was an example of you can have your students come up with different ones. And that allows somebody who is maybe musical, they are more into music. It doesn't have to be rap, it could be poetry, but it allows them to use their music skills, their verbal skills. They can create beats. They may love creating beats at home, and they can create a beat which helps them. I also find that music helps some students in class. I used to allow my students to have headphones in class and listen to music while they were doing their classwork. And I found that a lot of students who were talkative before ended up being quiet because they just love music. And they find that music is more important than talking to other people. And so the music helped them to focus on the task at hand. So once again, that is kind of connecting some multiple intelligent activities with the musical side of it. Now, the last two that we're going to talk about, the two that kind of get lost along the way. One of them is the interpersonal one. So this is interpersonal, logical, and spatial. Now, interpersonal is the self-smart. They understand themselves. They love to do diaries. They're into very growth, self-esteem building. They are very much into self-improvement. They're into their inner world. They love to do diaries, blogs, those type of things. That is the interpersonal one. And this one is for grade number 2. And so this is going to be interpersonal, logical, and spatial. This is a project, and this is something that you could give to a student as extra credit. The idea of this project is to learn how as far as the time, so the analog clock. So how a grade 2, a second grader will understand how to read an analog clock, 1:15, 1:30, AM, PM, to understand those type of things. Well, what do? The first thing they do is figure out what do they do during the day. So this is the introspective part. Do they eat breakfast? They shower, brush their teeth? What things do they do? They can choose the activity that they spend the most time on. They can start to think about what time did they start? What time did they finish? How much time do they spend on it? So they're doing this intrapersonal, this self-reflection. Then the next start is to chart some of the things that they do. Get up in the morning. What time? What time do they finish? Eating breakfast, start time. All of these different things, they start to track it. And then lastly, this is the spatial with a visual. They can create a poster with a clock kind of showing what times they do each one of the activities. This is a great extra credit where they're getting the subject of being able to understand time, adding of time, understanding reading the analog clock, but they're doing it based off something that matters to them, which is their self, the self-smart part of them. So this is a great one to connect students in this way. And remember, every chapter in your book has a project like this. And every lesson has a multiple intelligent activity that goes along with it. The last one that we're going to discuss is one that deals with naturalistic. Naturalistic often gets lost along the way, but I think it's one of the most powerful ones. I believe that when a teacher connects a student with who is naturalist, it can actually build a love for science, because the biologist, the veterinarian, they probably only went into science because of their love for animals or their love for nature. And because of their love for nature, they wanted to care for it, and they went into the sciences. If the sciences just was about maybe chemistry or just engineering, or particularly engineering, they may not have been interested in the sciences, because engineering is this mechanical, electrical, this oil stuff. But animals, marine life, oh, that appeals to them. And they were like, you know what, I want to do everything possible to understand, to make our world a better place. And that's where we get our biologists, our veterinarians. And it's because there's teachers who are connecting naturalists to the sciences. And that's why I think this is a very important one. So a naturalist, one of the things that you can do for grade 5 is do plants love music. One of the interesting things you can have is you can maybe have a plant in your room, in your classroom, or you can have the kid have a plant at home, 2 plants. One plant is getting music on a regular basis. The other plant doesn't get music on a regular basis. Both plants gets the same amount of water, all of those different things. And you want to see the height in which each one grows. Does a plant respond to music? Now, even somebody who's musical, they may find that plants may respond to different types of music. And this would actually open up some understanding for students if they start to actually see there's a difference in plant life when it comes to music. And it may produce an even greater curiosity about nature. But along the way, what are we trying to do? We're teaching plotting. We're teaching X and Y. You know, the day, the height, the day, the height. Lastly, they can plot a graph. So they can do a coordinate point. They can plot a graph and they can see the rate in which the plant is growing. Once again, now you're getting into the concept of rate. They are understanding the logic and the math part, but they're doing it with something that they love, which is naturalistic things, and it's dealing with plants. Now, all of these things and all of these resources I shared with you, are resources that you have on eAlpha. If you're teaching grades 1 through 5, you have particularly every lesson has a games and activities and a multiple intelligence one. Every single lesson will have games and activities and multiple intelligence for this. So that's grade 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you will find it under the teacher's resources, under the games and activities and multiple intelligence. If you're teaching grades 7 and 8, the multiple intelligence is actually embedded into the anchor activity and exit activities. So instead of having just saying multiple intelligence, each one of the activities has different types of multiple intelligence. So for this one, it's a verbal, logical, and visual one. And you can find it under either the anchor activities or the exit activities. Every single anchor activity, every single exit activity has multiple intelligence embedded into the curriculum part for it. Lastly, if you want to provide just a quick survey for your students, particularly like elementary students, of what type of multiple intelligence, this is a great getting to know you survey that you can do at the very beginning of class. This is a great way to get to know your students. You give this to them and ask them to choose a number between 0 to 5 that relates to them, 5 being the highest. And then at the end, they calculate, or you calculate, on which one is the highest one for them. And this gives you an idea kind of going forward how you can kind of connect or make the class a little bit more, provide more equity for that student inside of your class.